Hello, my name is Aoife. Yeah, sure. So I'll start with, I guess, my motivation for doing the innovation through design thinking was I wasn't a good student from the first time round. I was easily distracted, always been told to apply myself. So my main motivation for doing the course back in September last was the academic achievement. I moved back to Dublin after 20 years away in 2017. And I got the chance to work on app development. So I stayed with travel, but we moved into more apps. So we provided the apps for EasyJet and BCG Travel. I loved the job. You work with a lot of different people. I was a product owner, so we were, traditionally the bridge between the customer, the client, the developers. It requires a lot of soft skills as opposed to. So I do believe I found my calling because despite always having a chip on my back about not having an academic qualification, I did. I was a success at my job, I think is fair to say, and I loved it. Fast forward then to 2020 with COVID, 85% of our revenues were gone. So I took another voluntary redundancy and I started looking again what's out there. And as I said at the beginning, it was really, I wanted to have an academic achievement, but in something that actually I was interested in, and design innovation. When I found the course in UCC, I was delighted because it seemed to speak to me. It seemed to be catered for. I guess prior I thought design was something that you were born at. You were either good at or you weren't good at. I also had some guidance in my early years about, design. Oh no, you won't get a career out of that. So, which might have, didn't help me to really undertake it. So I went back to learning, which again, I just think is the best way ever to really stimulate yourself again and motivate yourself.
Something that intrigues me when I'm listening to you, Aoife, you've had a really interesting career. A lot of it sort of at one level or another focused on technology, whether it's apps or systems, etc. And then you did this other project as part of this program, which. How did you go from there to here, and why did you go from here to there? And maybe you can tell us a bit about what that project is about.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. So I guess I had taken redundancy, so I wasn't working. So as part of semester two, we're giving a challenge, the innovation challenge. And I guess before Christmas, I started thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I'm not working with anybody. How do do I need a professional sponsor? Or if I open my eyes and look around me in my community, there's a lot of goodwill that goes on in the community. You can see it. We saw it through small acts of kindness during COVID, like people dropping off shopping or surprise Brennan's bread left at your doorstep if they knew you were in isolation. But simple things, getting a lift somewhere, like those little things, I thought, wow, I wonder if we took this asset-based community development, how might we really mobilize people in the community to work on something that they're interested in and to get to build a sustainable development. I guess we're in a, excuse me, where I live, it's an upcoming community. It's newly developed since 2006, but then the economic crisis, everything hit. So there was typically a lot of houses, no infrastructure, no schools. We still don't have a school. There's very few shops. There's a lot of empty retail units. The prices are skyrocket. So there was conversation then starting to look at the negative side, and here we go again, all of these things. And people were, getting frustrated, and then the councils were getting the blame, but, there was good intentions on their side as well. So, yeah, so my focus was how can I how might we leverage the interest of the people and build something that we're actually interested in? And that's where the culmination of my project is a community garden. And we have a lease now with Dublin City Council. We got the keys yesterday just, so we're building this now, and there's a group of about 30 people that are very interested that I wouldn't have known before the project. But the garden has seemed to really unite people and in some way detract from the ongoing development and the noise and the empty units. And there seems to be a positive vibe in the air.
Yeah, no, I think it's more than that, Aoife. I don't know, and I think you had a lovely sort of phrase. You know, it's about igniting change within a community, and I think that was really nice. You know, it's about yeah, look, there can be negative stories, there can be negative sentiment, etc. But there's a lot of assets within communities that we can leverage, and in fact, we can work together to start solving our own problems, but also creating opportunities. And I love the garden as a culmination of that. But I think you probably did more than that as well for me, Aoife. You've designed essentially, I don't know, is it a DIY sort of book about how other communities could do something similar?
So I guess what I started doing then was my DIY guide was inspired by actually, I'm just going to observe and watch what do the people do, what are their activities, where are they anyway on a daily basis, and ignite the conversation there rather than forcing it into a formal activity. No, and I took my laptop outside and I started sitting down, and just even then organic conversations happened. I think the correct term was the ethnographic techniques, but and true conversation, not necessarily, again, I would have been very conscious not to focus on where are you from, what are you interested in, but the flow happens, it happens, and be open to surprises, which sounds all very naive, but it does work. People like to talk. And I think then, where am I going with this? How it came about then, one of the observations as well was the amount of plants that people had in their balconies. So there's a lot of apartments here and people don't have gardens anymore. And people would often admire, oh, look at that plant over there and this. And then I met someone that was saying, oh, I really think a community garden. So it wasn't my idea, the garden. It was definitely opening out. And then there was about 7 people that had mentioned the same thing. And I said, sure, let's have a workshop. Will we talk about this? Let's see what this could be like. So we had a workshop. I did a design sprint style workshop. And words like, we didn't mention committee, we didn't mention commitment, we kept them out. And it was, do we have a shared intent here? Could we potentially do something? And by the end of the workshop, we had a clear vision. It was amazing. Everyone contributed. We used the community hall as well, which I found out that there was, people weren't aware. So there was a lot of new spaces been discovered amongst people. And I think really for the ADR side of the project, we didn't set a committee, but we had a shared intent amongst a core group. And then we worked ourselves on being the advocates and voice to mouth. Like we avoided, we're not going to go to social media just yet because we don't know what it is yet. So we purposely said everything was, no, not just yet, but maybe sometime in the future. And let's just try. And this agile approach and
very organic, so Aoife, in lots of ways. And is this something that you feel would be of value to other communities? And can people maybe contact you in some way, Aoife, if they're interested in learning more about the way you facilitated this process?
Definitely. Some have already approached me to come out and speak to their communities. I'll be going out to one actually in 2 weeks' time. And because it's really about taking the idea, don't discard it yourself, trash it out. Let's see where it can go. And don't be put off by bureaucracy, which most people are. And there's a lot of things that aren't written in the way that we speak. but you can own it and you can make it, and it's having those conversations. There's also a lot of support around, again, linking back to the Sustainable Development Goals. So there are actually a lot of financial supports, but it's about who to contact. But definitely starting off, it's about having that shared intent.
Question, Aoife, how did you come across asset-based community development? Where did that concept come from? Was it something you were familiar with before?
It was actually Cork City Council. So Karen from there came in and spoke about asset-based community development. And again, something clicked in my head. It was the same when I was doing the Scrum and the Agile method of development, that it just seemed so logical and practical. And it made sense in the world where we are now to sort of. And so then I went and I started looking, and I came across Cormac Russell and Kretzmann. And for me, actually, another big part of this project is I am using terms like design thinking and asset-based community development, and then even reframing to educate ourselves as well as we go. So it is very organic, but there is a structure to it. And then how deep I go in on the theory depends on my audience as well, which is, you know, and a no-brainer, really.
No, and I think that's a lovely part of what you've done. Sometimes we call it, as you say, structure or scaffolding. You have the scaffolding, but you're quite flexible within it then, Aoife, which is lovely. Aoife, any advice you'd give to people maybe considering a program like this?
Yeah, I think if you're considering it, just do it. It's not like, as I say, if you're already considering it, I think that's your answer. There's something in you that wants, there's something that intrigues, that is, you know, and just find out, go in. The first semester was tricky, like, but again, it could be I remember starting in September. In October, I was exhausted. But then we had a nice break in December, and then something happened in January that, even though the deadlines were more pressing, you know, you just got on with it. You went with the flow. You do what you can. You read what you can, and you know, just do it. If there's an inkling in it in you at the moment, and to reach out, I think, to any of us as well if there are specific questions. But the support you get from my fellow colleagues as well, like we were all remote. I did make the trip down from Dublin maybe 3 times, which was great. But we were all in the same boat, you know. And on the first day, you may be, oh, this guy seems to really know what he's talking about, or this. But you know, underneath it all, we're all in the same boat. And if there's an inkling there, that's a sign. Follow it.
Yeah, and it's a great way of putting it. We're all novices and we're all experts. We're all novices in some spaces, we're all experts maybe in other spaces, and actually coming together as a group and sharing that expertise is what it's all about. Aoife, thank you so much for your time. It's fascinating again to hear about the project. I'm a very strong advocate of asset-based community development. And also, thanks, you mentioned Karen Fitzgerald in Cork City Council as well. Karen is a massive advocate for action, I suppose, asset-based community development as well as design thinking. Thank you so much, Aoife.
You're welcome. Thank you, Podri. Talk soon. Bye.